Hello to all my magical friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very naughty confession. I've never ever actually physically read the Philosopher's Stone. I'm going to give you a moment for that to sink in because the devastation that could possibly put out into the world is just too much to comprehend. No, I've never read the Philosopher's Stone until now. So if you would like to hear my thoughts on the Philosopher's Stone, the book, then do carry on watching. Don't forget guys, if you are new and you haven't done already, then please hit the subscribe button to become part of my little magical community and turn the notification bells on as well to be notified every time I upload a video. And you can always go and check me out on my social media. A big shout out as well to my patrons. You guys are amazing. If you are interested in joining us on Patreon, the link is in the description down below. Go and check it out. Okay, yes, so the Philosopher's Stone, I haven't read it. I'm really not, well, I have now, but I hadn't up until this point in time. I'm 32 years old and a self-confessed Harry Potter major fan, and I have never read the book that started it all. Now, I do have my own reasons for not reading the Philosopher's Stone. They're not good reasons, but they're reasons. So I didn't actually read the Philosopher's Stone only because, well, I started it. I remember getting the books for Christmas. I had the Philosopher's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets for Christmas the one year, just before the Philosopher's Stone film came out. So I had the book and I started to read it, and then it wasn't so long after I started to read it that the film came out. So I just kind of said to myself, bearing in mind I'm like 11 years old at this point, or 10 years old at this point, I was like, I'm not gonna bother reading it now. Why would I read the book when I can go and see the film? Typical 11-year-old child, you know what I mean? So yeah, I went to go and see the film, and from that moment on, hooked. Absolutely hooked. I don't even think I got fully into the first chapter of the actual book before the film came out. So there was so much for me that I didn't know was different from the book to the film. But of course, when I went to go see the film, I was completely oblivious. I watched the film and absolutely fell head over heels in love with Harry Potter. I went home and instantly picked up the Chamber of Secrets because I wanted to know what happened next. But I never ever went back to the Philosopher's Stone. So I recently started to reread some of the books because I'd kind of forgotten key points that obviously only people that have read the books would know. And I was starting to think to myself, you know what, I can't actually say to myself that I'm a proper Harry Potter fan without remembering some of these key details. So I recently went back and started to read some of the books again. I started, stupidly enough, from The Goblet of Fire onwards. And after I finished the Deathly Hallows, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to do it. I have to be a big girl, put on my big girl pants and actually read the Philosopher's Stone because I've never done it. And boy, am I glad I did. Honestly, I have no idea before reading this, like how much of it is different to the film. So I made some notes in my book about the different things that were in the book to the film. And I'm kind of going to go through them and just express my at the actual differences. So the first one I figured out was the fact that in the beginning of the film, obviously we see Dudley's birthday. He's been taken to the zoo and Harry goes along with him. Now, I didn't know that Dudley actually had a friend that he brought along with him to the zoo. Not really a major detail in that part, so I can see why they kind of left it out of the film. It wasn't really necessary to have that extra person there. But yeah, I was just like, oh, wow, okay, Dudley did have friends. He wasn't just him and Harry. Dudley had a friend. Who would have thought it? And Harry was actually supposed to stay with Mrs. Fig, but she had broken her leg, so therefore couldn't look after Harry. So that makes sense, I suppose. But though, do you know what? Reading that part though, there is a bit where sort of Harry expresses that he didn't really like Mrs. Fig's house because it didn't smell nice, or it had like a cat smell. She had a lot of cats. But he also expresses that she let him watch telly and that she often made him chocolate cake. Why wouldn't you prefer that to the Dursleys' house? You know, for any moment of time that you get to go to Mrs. Fig's, surely that's better than spending any time with the Dursleys ever. So that part confused me a little bit. Harry, go spend some time with Mrs. Fig. She's lonely and she gives you cake. Enjoy it, mate. So the second part I figured out as well was the whole bedroom situation. I didn't realise that it was in the Philosopher's Stone that Harry ended up getting Dudley's second bedroom. I didn't think it was until he returned from Hogwarts in the for the summer that he got the bedroom. I thought in that summertime they were like, right, okay, we better put him up in the bedroom so we don't get told off. But no, he actually does it quite early on in the film. I think it's after the first few letters and they realise that it says cupboard under the stairs. They're like, oh, they're watching us. They know he's in the cupboard. Let's pop him in the bedroom, shall we? And of course, Dudley throws his little tantrum, but I need the room, I want the room. Get over it, kid. No one needs 2 bedrooms, you know what I'm saying? Especially when your little cousin is sleeping under the stairs. Nobody deserves that. So yeah, that was something that surprised me actually, because like I said, I truly believe that it was in that kind of summertime period that Harry ended up getting Dudley's second room. So revelations all around. Another key thing that I didn't realise as well, again, from watching the film, you see Hagrid pick Harry up from like the lighthouse place that they apparently went to. Again, that kind of explains itself more in the book, because I always wondered, how the hell did they get on that little island? Because watching the film, I thought, how on earth did they get onto that little bit of land with the little shack on the middle of the ocean with all these waves coming over? They explain it more in the book. So they take a little boat, they hire a little boat, they take it over, and that's how they get there. Because initially I was like, how on earth did they get there? But yeah, anyway, I digress. Yeah, so when Hagrid goes to pick up Harry, takes him to Diagon Alley and does the whole like shopping spree thing, I didn't actually realise that he then takes Harry back to the Dursleys before he goes to Hogwarts. And it's not actually Hagrid that takes him to the train station, hands him his ticket and says, you know, platform 9 3/4, off you go, Harry, and just disappears. Because I did think in the film, I was like, well, that's really unhelpful of Hagrid. Surely he knows that he's not done that before. Like, he would give him more instruction, surely. But no, it's actually the Dursleys. He goes back to the Dursleys for a few weeks before the September 1st like train journey happens. And it's actually the Dursleys that take him to the train station. They realise that there's no platform in between 9 and 10. And he's like, huh, have a good term, Harry. Bye. And leaves. And then Harry's just like, now what? What do I do now? It makes a lot more sense because I would assume that Vernon would be a lot less caring about if Harry made it to school on time or not than Hagrid would be. Hagrid would be more so like getting involved and trying to make sure that he got on the train okay. Yeah, that part of it just kind of eluded me a little bit. He should have gone back to the Dursleys and the Dursleys drop him off. I think that makes more sense. Another part that had me kind of giggling, really speaking, was baby Norbert. Obviously in the film, we see Hagrid hatch Norbert. Draco sees them and they go instantly back to the school and get caught for being outside. And then Norbert gets taken away, sort of you don't see Norbert again. But then reading the book, I was actually quite shocked that that incident where they go to Hagrid's hut and they see Draco Malfoy peering through the window, Malfoy actually makes it back to the school and taunts the trio for like a whole week about Norbert before Norbert ends up being discovered. Well, he doesn't actually even get discovered, actually. I'm telling fibs. So there's this really lovely part where Harry, Ron and Hermione kind of go back to Hagrid's and Norbert's grown and he's running around Hagrid's hut and he's like blowing little bits of smoke and fire everywhere. He ends up biting Ron and he's obviously getting much larger, so he's causing a little bit of mayhem and havoc. And then the trio end up deciding to write to Ron's brother Charlie in Romania to get him to come pick up Norbert and take him back to Romania with him. So Charlie actually ends up sending 2 friends that are on their way to go and see Charlie in Romania. And they ask him to come and pick up Norbert from the astronomy tower at midnight on whatever day it was. And that's where Harry and Hermione end up taking Norbert up to the astronomy tower under the invisibility cloak. Now, Ron doesn't go with them because Ron sustained a bite from Norbert and ended up having to go to the hospital wing to get treatment because it was becoming infected or something gooey was going on there. Yuck. So Harry and Hermione sneak off to the astronomy tower to drop off Norbert. Draco knows because he ends up getting a book off of Harry with a note inside explaining that they're going to go and meet Charlie from Charlie. And that's how Draco knows that they're out of bed. Draco gets caught earlier on. Harry and Hermione successfully get Norbert seen off with Charlie's friends. I'm going like really like 100 miles an hour here. And then it's on the way back down from the astronomy tower that those 2 end up getting caught, as well as Neville, who is trying to warn them that Draco is about to grass on them. So it ends up being Harry, Hermione, Draco and Neville that go into the Forbidden Forest as detention. not Ron. Ron never goes. Like, what? What? I had no idea. How the hell was that, like, not mentioned? That would have been such a good thing to have in the book. The fact that Ron obviously got bitten, by Norbert, that would have been a really funny thing to have seen. And the fact that they go to the astronomy tower to meet up with Charlie's friends. And obviously Norbert goes off to be with Charlie. And then obviously that's how Neville ends up getting caught as well, because he goes to warn them. So I thought that was a really, really cool little part of the book that I didn't expect. I really didn't. I had no idea that Neville was actually getting detention with the other two rather than Ron. Literally blown my mind. Another factor that I thought was quite a cool little thing as well is that Firenze is not the only centaur that Harry meets in the Forbidden Forest. He also meets a centaur by the name of Ronan, and he also meets a centaur by the name of Blaine. Now, initially, when they go into the Forbidden Forest, the pairings, like, 'cause obviously, like in the film, you see Harry and Draco go off, and you see Hagrid go off with Ron and Hermione. Now, in the book, it didn't quite pan out that way. They actually had different pairings. I can't quite remember them now off the top of my head. And then they kind of switch it to being Harry and Draco, and that's when they come across the unicorn being sort of blood drunk from Voldemort. Blech. So yeah, that was something that I didn't realise as well. And there's obviously a conversation between Blaine and Ronan and Firenze about how we don't let humans ride us, we don't get involved in humans. No, ACV, wizards and witches, we just don't entertain them. But yeah, I genuinely didn't realise that he had actually met several different centaurs. I literally just thought it was Firenze, and that's the only kind of contact he had with centaurs until later on. But no, he actually ends up meeting them in the first book, so that was interesting. The next part of the book that I ended up discovering was the tasks to get through the trapdoor and get past Fluffy and all that stuff. There was actually more than just 3 tasks. This was news to me. I didn't know that. Although, looking back, I remember having the Philosopher's Stone on DVD when it first came out, and there was like an added extra thing in there where you could actually play like almost like a mini game, and you can go through all the different challenges to get to the Philosopher's Stone. And I remember now there being a potions task, and I didn't know why that was in there. I just kind of played the game. Didn't really think about it, to be honest. I just kind of played the game and thought, this is fun, I'll just play the game. But yeah, there was actually a potions task in that, as well as there was also a troll to get past that Quirrell had placed there, quite aptly, I thought. But yeah, I didn't realise there was more than 3 tasks. I just thought it was the flying keys, the devil's snare, and the chessboard. I didn't realise that there was a potions one, and I didn't realise there was a troll one. So that was interesting. The fact as well that the troll was already knocked out when Harry and Hermione got to it, that was quite fun as well. I thought, you know, they've already faced a troll once. They don't need to do that again. Cut the kids some breaks, you know what I mean? They don't need to go through that. So yeah, obviously Quirrell had knocked the troll out on his way, but everything else reset itself. So I don't know how that wouldn't have either, but who am I? I'm not the writer. I didn't do it, you know what I mean? So who am I to say that what gets reset and what doesn't? But yeah, the troll was already knocked out. But obviously then the potions task was that there were 7 bottles all in a row, and there was like a riddle almost to kind of figure out which potion would allow them to go onwards or which potion would let them go back if they were thinking, you know, I'm not down with this anymore. I've done these 4 tasks. This last one is just not having it. So you decide to go back and just quit. But yeah, I didn't realise that there was even a potions task that was there. So that was quite cool as well. I thought that was a really, really good thing, because it gave like Hermione a chance to really shine, because obviously Ron had his kind of shine moment with the chessboard, and Harry had his kind of shine moment with the flying keys, even though again in the book all 3 of them flew on the broomsticks, not just Harry. But that was kind of like Harry's thing. That was Harry's like strength. And then the potions part of it was like Hermione's strength. And I thought that was a really good part, and it should have been included in the film. But yeah, I just thought that was a really, really cool difference as well from the book. And the last thing that kind of stuck in my head was something that actually kind of irritated me a little bit, because technically Harry doesn't kill Quirrell in the end. Like the bit in the film where he puts his hands on his face and like his entire body kind of like disintegrates and turns to ash. That's quite like a gross part of the film, but you think, yeah, you know, Harry beat his ass, well done. But yeah, it didn't go down that way in the book. There was definitely parts where like he was touching Quirrell and obviously his hand was like burning and blistering and stuff, but it even affected Harry to some degree. But yeah, Harry actually ended up being knocked out, if I remember rightly. And Dumbledore arrived in the absolute nick of time to defeat Quirrell, and then Harry woke up in hospital. And I'm like, so technically he didn't beat Voldemort the first time round. That's a bit of a let down, to be honest. I was actually really disappointed in that. Because, all right, yeah, he did kind of keep him at bay. He did kind of fight against him. But he didn't really defeat him. That was Dumbledore. I didn't like that part. I thought that they should have just like let it go down the way it did in the film. I thought, you know what? Harry needs to kind of prove himself at this point, because that's the whole point of Harry Potter, is that he's able to get by this person several times over and over until the very end, where he ends up completely destroying him anyway. So for me, I just thought that was just a smidgen disappointing that technically in the Philosopher's Stone, he doesn't actually defeat him himself. He gets a lot of extra help from, you know, Ron and Hermione, and then Dumbledore right at the end. And yeah, that just kind of just made me feel a bit like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was just a smidgen disappointing, I suppose. Now, there are many, many more differences from the book to the film, but obviously I didn't want to go through everything because I would literally be here for like 4 hours. It was just so much that I could have like discussed and talked about. But those are the kind of ones that really kind of stuck out for me, were really shocking revelations to me. So yeah, I just thought it was a really, really fun thing to do, to actually read the book and actually get some different perspective from it as well, because obviously the films don't always do the books justice, as we all know. And I think I really missed out on an awful lot not reading this book years and years ago, or when I first got it. I should have done it. Even if I had gone to see the film first, I should have come home, and instead of picking up the Chamber of Secrets, I should have picked up the Philosopher's Stone, just to kind of get another perspective from it. But that's 11-year-olds for you. We're not exactly the most clever of bunches, so I was very naughty and I didn't read the book. But now I have, and I'm really, really chuffed that I did. If you haven't read the Philosopher's Stone, sorry for spoiling it for you. I've probably done a really bad job of that. But I do recommend that you go and read it, even if you have seen the film, even if you have watched this and you kind of know. There are so many more differences. There are so much more goes into the books than you do ever see in the films. So it's definitely worth the read. And I'm really, really annoyed at myself that it's taken me this long to actually read the thing. But if you did enjoy this video, guys, please give it a magical thumbs up for me so that I know. Don't forget as well, if you haven't done already, to please hit the subscribe button to become part of my little magical community, and turn the notification bells on as well to be notified every time I upload a video. And I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye, you guys.